everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I am here with one of my very best friends, Paula Jennings, and she and I discussed how we would approach doing the show today, because not only does Paula have a great story and an interesting story to tell, but one that is aligned with what this day is and how it's impacted our lives. And that's because it's 9/11. And for the majority of people who are going to be watching this, 9/11 holds a special place in our lives, in our consciousness, in our subconsciousness, because we all went through extreme trauma. Some of us much more than others, and I am not one who suffered a personal loss during that time, but so many people have or are closely related to people who do. So while this broadcast is all about being positive, we did want to respect and honor the day and commemorate the day. So what we're going to do first, before we do our moment of silence, is to think about the lessons in 9/11 that can apply to each one of us every single day that we're here on this planet. So if we called those people back and we asked them, what lessons can you give us? What do you think that they would say? So think about it. Do you think they'd say, well, you have to work harder and spend less time with your family? No. Would they say, oh yeah, get into petty arguments and ruin relationships and make yourself miserable? No, they wouldn't tell you that. They'd tell you that every minute was important, every relationship is important, and living mindfully is very important. So they would say, take that vacation. They would say, extend a smile to the homeless person that you see on the street. They would say, write a check to the Red Cross for the Bahama Relief Fund. All those things that are really the important things in life. And although our jobs are very important and our careers hold prominence in our lives, sometimes we, especially as New Yorkers, have a way of putting a sense of importance on a job that unfortunately masks some of the other stuff that's happening in our lives. Or maybe we hold the tension from that job and let it get in the way of being kind or letting things go, sweating that small stuff when it means so little in the scheme of things. So Paula is a former top executive, one of the COOs at one of the country's largest global financial services institutions. She did that. She worked on Wall Street. She was there during the time of 9/11, not, of course, in the offices we're talking about, but so I'm going to turn it over to her. She's also the founder and CEO of Annam, which is a transformational dream evolution company that she started. And she's going to tell you a little bit about, and the word evolution is very key to the whole process. She's going to tell you about her evolution, her transformation, and how that maybe holds something that is going to resonate with you. So Paula, I'm going to hand it over to you, and then let's go silent for a moment, and then we'll talk about your journey and how all of this ties together.
Thank you, Lynn. grateful for you and grateful for the model that you are for me of just fearless living, of not being afraid to just take life into your own hands. You truly are an ageless goddess, and I'm really, really grateful that our paths have crossed and that we've had the opportunity to collaborate and to really, enjoy our lives together.
Yes.
So and I was really, as I listened to you and as I listened to the words you spoke into, and this, this idea of what would these 200, I think it was 2,977 lives, precious lives um, that were lost that day. What is their message for us? And as you spoke into that, I just had this image of, and I'd maybe like to lead us through a quick meditation as we go into silence. But what I really would like everybody to do in this moment is to ponder the question that Lynn has posed, to take your hands and place them on your heart. And as you do that, I want you to take a deep breath in. And if you're called, please close your eyes and just go in. And so from this place, as you connect with your heart center, I want you to imagine that your former self is on the left of you, your young, vibrant self. For me, it was imagining myself on the day of 9/11. And so pick any age that comes to you. And then I want you to imagine on your right side is your future self. And so as you do that, I want you to connect these three selves and just open them up to the question that Lynn answered, and open up to any messages that may come from these survivors, from yourself that has survived so much, and also from the spirits of the people whose lives were lost on 9/11. So just really connect in to your heart, connect into your former self and your future self. And I just want you to take a moment here to honor all that has happened in your life and in the lives of us as humans who've suffered. And we're just going to go into a moment of silence and just allow yourself to connect in during that silence. Now gently start to take a deep breath in through your nose. You can flutter your eyelids open. Just releasing with the out breath. Let's take a deep breath in together. And releasing with the out breath. Take a deep breath in of gratitude. And exhaling peace. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn, for the opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Paula.
Can I ask you, before we started, can I ask you what were the messages that came for you?
For me, I think that I received validation for the path that I'm on. I'm very grateful to where it has led me. All the different factions of the path that I've been experiencing, the retreat work that we're going to be doing, the show in showcasing women who have done extraordinary things and continue to do extraordinary things, the business side of what I'm doing, and helping other people find wellness and financial freedom. So it's all good. That's the message I got. That
Okay.
the journey is a good one.
Yes. Well, I'm celebrating you and your acknowledgement of your choices, because really that's what it is. Really, what came up for me was, and rarely do I, and I probably can say the same for you, knowing you as well as I do, we don't give ourselves a break a lot of the time, right? We are continually striving and pushing ourselves to the next thing, without taking a moment to sort of settle in and give gratitude, and even just take a moment to look back and acknowledge ourselves for the commitment and for the hard work that we put into developing lasting, authentic relationships in our
Yeah.
lives. That is something that is a choice. And for me, 9/11 was a turning point. At the time, my son was 3 months old. I had flown back from Ireland the night before, after having said goodbye to my father, knowing that maybe I might not see him again. So, the morning of 9/11, I had my child in my hands. I'm breastfeeding my son, Ben, who's now, as you know, just left for college.
Yeah.
So it really is a full circle. And I witnessed, we lived in Brooklyn Heights, which is right opposite where the towers were.
Oh my
And so,
gosh.
yeah. And so, on the phone with my father, who was very worried about me, obviously, because he was watching it on the TV in Dublin. And just, this sense of what has happened, as we watch this building come down like a deck of cards.
Yes.
And the feelings that came up for me at the time were, what have I done by bringing a child into this world? Like, what are we about? Like, it was almost, taking me to question humanity. And I have a very strong belief in humanity, and I've had many reasons to, I had many reasons to believe and have faith in humanity, and also had seen and gone through some stuff that had me question it. So this was another one of those moments where it was a choice. I could choose to, freak out and be afraid, and, like, really, come from fear, or I could choose to, see where I could be used, see where I could help, see where I could contribute. I was about to go back to work, and Ben was about to start in a daycare around the corner, the Trinity daycare. And it so happened that they were sister daycare of a daycare right by 9/11. And so the children from there were brought to our daycare. And so that was my choice. My choice was to, to reach out to everybody that I knew, to bring Ben there, to recognize that he was the future and he was the hope, and that and let and allow the path of forgiveness to start, right. I wasn't directly impacted, although I could have been in the building that day. That was where we had offices there. But it was a really reality check, on my own life and what I was doing and how much time I was spending away from my son. And I really believe that it was the beginning of my journey back to reclaiming what it was that I wanted for my life, and also, to recognizing what was important to me, um, and what was important to our family. So, yeah. And so I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago, actually a week ago, to go to the memorial, by 9/11. I had visited maybe once before, but it's been quite a while. And so what really I was struck by was the regrowth, the rebirth. There is a tree down there called the survivor tree. I don't know if you know about that, but it is a pear tree. So the pear tree was very damaged. They found the firefighters, who I will be eternally grateful for, and think we all, acknowledge on this day, who gave their lives for us. But they found the survivors. They found a tree, and, that tree has been nursed back to health, and now it is in the center of the plaza. That has been, rebuilt. And to me, the sense I got as I looked into the water of these beautiful reflective pools was, and to also see the names of every single one of these lives, and to acknowledge that each one of them had a life. They had mothers, they had fathers, they had, they were people, just like us, just like you and me. And it gave me this sense of how important it is to be intentional with how we build relationships, and to live every moment. I know it sounds cliche, but to try to live every moment, not to try to live every moment as if it were your last moment, and to cultivate that sense of reverence for life, the sacred nature that the lives that we have been given are, and to enjoy them. I
Yes.
feel to really enjoy our lives, because we don't know, the next breath can the most important thing we have is our breath, right? And our breath is free. You can starve yourself, you could go for weeks and weeks without eating and not die, but you don't breathe for a few minutes and it's over.
Mm.
So one of the messages I would like to remind people of is that every time you find yourself in a situation where you feel angry or frustrated or sad, or we all have these moments in our days, some of us more than others, is that we come back to our breath. Our breath is the language of our soul. It really connects us with what truly we're here to do, to our purpose, right? And so each one of those lives that was lost that day, that they had a purpose. It was a very big purpose. And so for us to each acknowledge that we also are, we what we make of our lives during the time we are here is totally up to us.
I agree.
And so to develop a breath practice, to stop and look and listen before we respond to somebody, like to really listen, not only to others but to ourselves. So what 9/11 taught me, I guess, in one is in one, if I were to sum it up as one, is to respect the preciousness of my life, to connect into the sacredness of the relationships that are around me, and never to let, my father used to always say, never let the sun go down in an argument. So never,
Oh,
don't hold a grudge.
absolutely. I totally believe that. Don't go to bed mad. I mean, absolutely, it's the same thing. It's very important.
Yeah.
So your wisdom and your soul's acknowledgement and your soul's emergence doesn't
Mm-hmm.
sound like something that comes out of Wall Street. How did you get from that place that is, it has a lot of negative connotation around it to the butterfly that you are now? What happened? I know it was not a journey that happened overnight.
No.
But you being Irish, you probably had the seed sown since before you were born. But when you speak so authentically from the heart, and so about such a deep matter, it sounds like something that is from someone who has taken a journey. So tell us about that. How did you evolve? And I noticed that you have, evolution in your current business name, which I'm sure is, no coincidence.
Right.
How did you get from that point of what is known for being very material to something that is now spiritual and intangible and ethereal?
Okay, so well, I think first of all, I think the first thing to say to that, Lynn, is that soul is everywhere. Yogi Bhajan, I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher as well, and one of his favorite quotes that I love is that if you can't find God in all, and when I say God, I want it to mean truly universal. It could be your higher self. It could be it's the generator, organizer, destroyer. It doesn't have to be.
It's what we refer to as God, whatever
somebody else.
The universe, only because to me, universe just means including more than something that would be looked at as a person.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. So yeah, so everywhere we go, and this is the beauty that the life has been given us, is that everywhere we go, we have a choice to recognize, the personality of somebody or what they do and judge them for that, or we can recognize the larger soul that that person represents. I mean, I guess at a young age, I was very aware, and I was very aware of. I asked a lot of questions about where I came from. I was a sensitive child who grew up in an Irish home that didn't necessarily cater to my sensitivity. Let me put it that way. But so, and I had a journey before I came to Wall Street. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. So when I was 30, I decided to leave Ireland. There's a lot of things that had led up to that, but I'll just say briefly that in my 20s, I had an illness that pretty much took my 20s out. But it was also a great opportunity for me to really connect in with it took me to some dark, deep places, and had me get to know myself in a way that perhaps if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have. And also to kind of work out stuff with my birth family, my father and my mother. And it was a time where was able to open up to the love that they had given me, and to heal myself. So I came to the States, really not sure what I was doing. I knew that I was in this, Irish financial company, surrounded by men who were all the managers and the senior people, and women were the supervisors. And I, growing up in the home that I did, and with the parents I did, I knew that this was not something that I wanted to be part of anymore. And so I had an opportunity to come to New York, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I literally had a suitcase and about $500 in my pocket, and I had a friend's couch to my good friend Ruth. I had her couch to sleep on, and so I went hitting the pavements. I needed to make a living, and it was like a restart for me. It was this new, fresh start. I felt very guided to come here. I knew that there was a mission waiting for me. And how I ended up on Wall Street was my mother found an ad in the Irish Times, and she called me and said they're looking for, finance majors, whatever, and go. And people who had green cards. And so that was me. So I went on this interview, again, completely clueless. And I think probably my naivety and my willingness to learn was what had me stand out. My willingness to say, I don't know what to. I actually had interviewed at a company at the time. It was a boutique New York investment bank that specialized in derivatives, which was a hot new product. This was in the 90s. And so, and really, the guy who hired me took a complete chance. He had no idea what he was getting, but he had a sense that perhaps this was a match. I literally could not believe how much money they were offering me. It was a contractor job. I took an Excel course the weekend before I started, because I had sort of said I was computer literate, which wasn't 100% accurate. And off I started. And so that was the beginning of my career. And I never had, maybe because I was from outside of the United States, but all I met were people. I met people who supported me, or I met people who I could support. I developed relationships. It was like family. We had, I worked a lot of hours, literally breakfast, lunch, and dinner with this team that I had, come into. And I went to their bar mitzvahs, I went to their weddings. I mean, we had a family within the environment I was working in. And I found, I guess I had I really had a new sense of who I was. I was able to redefine myself and reclaim this woman most likely to succeed when she left college, who that's not quite what happened. And that's a story for another day. But so, and so I never felt that it wasn't, at least in the early days, I never felt that there wasn't light there. Never felt that I didn't have a purpose. In fact, I felt I had a big purpose, which as I grew and as I was promoted and I was moved firms, really the purpose that I really most resonated with was representing an authentic woman in the workplace, and being the kind of woman that other women wanted to work for. I was lucky enough to have an incredible trader woman that I worked with who really gave me a lot of opportunity, and a lot of incredible men who saw the value that I was bringing and were willing to support that.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. Now, as the years went on, I think because I was working in an environment that was so disconnected from nature, and my life got very stressful. I had my first child, my father passed away, my marriage, well, a couple of years later, my marriage was in difficulty. I started to lose connection to myself. I started to lose connection, and I started to get caught up in that world of being good enough, or having to strive harder, I guess, because it was a male dominated field, having to feel that I had to work harder than the men did. And I made a lot of choices that were not really in alignment with what my soul wanted me to do. So, or at least they were choices that were not supportive of my health and wellness, my happiness, my ability to be present. So
Mhm.
those choices were about, the hours that I worked, not responding to my husband when I was in the office. I will, I'll own my ugly. I quite often would go into the zone because the kind of person I am, I'm very all or nothing. And for me, it was very difficult to be that person who people looked up and was a leader in my career, and to be able to balance that with also being a wife and a mother. And there was an out of balance in my marriage. And then there became an out of balance in my motherhood. So yeah, I'm just going to pause there because that was a lot. I'm trying to think of what I want to convey about all of that. So I guess what I want to, what's really I'm passionate about currently is to have us all recognize when we use something in our lives, whether it's work, whether it's alcohol, whether it's cigarettes, when we use that to dull the pain, when we use that to block out feeling or connecting with people. For me, it was work. I was a workaholic. I smoked cigarettes, I had these habits that if I hadn't been interrupted, or I hadn't interrupted myself with such things of like 9/11, I may not be here today. I may not. So especially for women because I think what we try to do is we try to be all things to all people.
Oh, yeah.
In the patriarchy and certainly where in my heritage, and I think for all of us, women were seen as the servers. We didn't really have an identity of our own, right? And so what I would encourage people to do is every morning when you wake up, just really connect into why you're doing what you're doing. Take that breath, connect and shift. Sometimes we can shift. We can wake up feeling like I don't know what my purpose is, but just a little breath can take you back into, whether it's into the joy that does exist within you, or that is there. It's ever present. All of us have it, and we don't always connect with it because of the circumstances of our lives. And for me, I have had many circumstances. I like to call them circumstances. They're events, and in some ways they're neutral events. Some people may view them as being, horrific, events or traumas, but I see them as neutral events that I can make up my story around how they're going to impact the rest of my life. So if I think about my former, who I was, and I also believe that who we are now is a complete combination on the continuum of time of who we have been and who we will be. And
Yeah.
so if I connect into who I am now, I understand that I am a product of all the choices I made. And I made those choices with the best knowledge I had at the time.
Sure.
And so that allows me to be able to forgive myself for any choices that may have not,
There's
have not been
no
the best.
judgment. You can't have judgment about it. It just is, as you said. It's part of this composite of where we came from, what we learn, what we do, how we
Yes.
be, and where we're going to take that. So here you are. You're in New York. You're climbing the ladder. You're working hard.
Yeah.
would you say that 9/11 was that pivotal moment that forced you to look and say something's not right here? Or was it a buildup, or was there anything else that got you? I know it took you many years before you actually
Left.
broke that tie.
Yes.
But was it something that got you started on your higher path?
I think it was, I think that yes, I think that it was one of the events that had me, that had me connect into what I was here for. I don't, and I definitely made choices in support of my own health, and also, our well, at that point it was more about my family. Like it was really, my focus had completely shifted into what was important for my family, and I made sacrifices. I continued to work on Wall Street. My ex-husband my husband at the time had this dream of owning his own bakery, which has now come true. And I was contracted. I felt it was my mission that I got to support him in that. So I remained on in Wall Street, but I did make choices within the framework of my working day that made a difference. I eventually was hired 3 days a week. I made more of an effort to be home with my children, to take vacations, to go home to Ireland every year. Was important to me to go back to Ireland. But really, I think there was and so for me, it was a series of events along the way, right? A series of events along. And despite myself, I continued to be successful. I don't know that I was particularly intentional about my career. Um, I certainly cared about it and I worked very hard, but I wasn't always thinking, oh, how am I going to the next level? How am I going to the next level? Those things just happened sort of easily, I want to say. And even in how I was compensated, I was valued for what I did because I cared. And I was in an environment of A-type analytical men where, I guess my emotional intelligence was a real gift. And I was somewhat became, the I guess the mediator or the connector of these men who really weren't sure how to express themselves to each other or how to work together in a way that a woman can. And I think my success continued to happen partly because I didn't try to be a man in a man's world. I don't think I was ever viewed as a competitor, and maybe that was a clever strategy on my behalf, when I think back on it, but I don't know that it was conscious at the time. But there was one really, I guess the real defining moment for me was, and was it being a decade later? Yeah, almost a decade later. And at this point, I'd had my second child, my daughter, and I was unhappy. I was not. I was managing two children, a big career, traveling, every quarter, and just overall unhappy with the structure of the firm and the amount of changes that would happen at upper management. So it felt like even though I was making progress with certain initiatives that I cared deeply about, especially related to diversity and women, but also just the well-being of my staff, that I didn't have as much control as I wanted to in terms of the impact on that environment. So I was becoming unrestful, put it that way. And I was recognized as a leader, and for that I was sent to. This is really when things started to shift. The company I was with sent me on a leadership program for women. It was a global leadership program. About 40 women around the world gathered in outside Paris at INSEAD. We had incredible group and support team of coaches and experts in the feminine leadership or in women leadership. It was quite a unique program, and really owes it. There was one of the women who spearheaded that on the Deutsche Bank side. I owe her very much my gratitude. So here I found myself interrupted from my daily routine, where of course I had no time to think. I was just literally barely surviving, not feeling good enough as a mother, not feeling good enough as in my career. And I'm all of a sudden on this lawn in a hammock in in the countryside in Paris, and I'm like, wow, I have time to breathe, right? I have time to breathe. And I remember we had an exercise, and this really was quite Transformational, we did this exercise where, and the whole point of the week was for us to reflect back on our leadership style and the impact we were having, and what is it like to be a woman? How does a woman lead from authenticity without giving up? How can she be herself? You know, without, because we're always told to be somebody else. I
Right,
continually
of
told
course.
that I should be somebody else. I should be this. I should be that. It was never quite good enough, right? It was with my how I was experiencing it, which of course was all coming from inside. But one of the sessions I had was to go over this 360 review, and you know, the 360s, they was like peer reviews and reviews from above and below you, and every year I would always get these incredible reviews, and of course, and it was always the advice to, I needed to step back, I needed to not delegate and all those things, and I never believed the good things they said about me. I only ever looked at the bad things they said about me,
Sure, of course.
right? This is where I was. And so what the coach that was coaching me in the session asked me to draw a picture of myself, like, so like literally a huge piece of paper. I needed to represent my head, my heart, my past, and my future. And so for someone who really was so in her left brain, was very, operating not from an artistic side at all, it was really, stuck in this sort of mental space. For me, that exercise just immediately brought up um, this this sense of, oh my God, who am I? What is my identity? I have this working identity. I have this identity at home. I am all of these. There's so many different aspects and facets of me. Um, I recognized there was no connection between my head and my heart. I recognized as I drew my head that my head was huge. I recognized that the smile that was on my face was not a smile that I felt inside. And I was getting up every day, putting the smile on my face, just to support the family, to be the role model in work, and I was so freaking exhausted. I was just so spent, and I had come so far away from who I truly was. Um, I I had a nanny taking care of my children in the morning, another nanny during the day. During the day, I was really not, really, really missing being the mom that I wanted to be. Didn't know how that could change because I was the primary breadwinner, and I was in a relationship, in a marriage that was not supportive. It was not, I had chosen to be in a marriage with somebody who was going to push me, push me, and push me. And I guess, I thank him for that now, because, it's this work that we do to see that side of ourselves that we're here to heal, right? We're here to um, bring back these splintered parts of ourselves. And the part of myself that I was bringing back was this part of myself that felt fundamentally flawed, or that she was not good enough. And so this all, in this one simple exercise, this all came flooding out. And I was so lucky to meet somebody in that trip, that this woman who kind of really helped me brainstorm and open up me to possibilities, because I was so in a tunnel that I didn't know how I would ever find my
Yeah,
way out of where I was.
of course.
And so that was the beginning. She really, what came there was, how about being how about transitioning over the next several years to being a coach, and to being, because I had this passion to teach women. I had this passion to cheerlead. It was part of my nature, right?
No.
And to uplift people. And so that was the first time in like many, many, many years that I kind of had this idea, oh my God, like I could actually do something else. I can actually have a dream that is different than my original dream when I came here. And so I read this book on the way back. It was by Armenia Ibarra. It's called Working Identity. She's the woman who led this leadership program. And I didn't stop reading. It was on the way back from Paris, and I just had it read by the time I got off the plane in New York. And I started my journey to become an executive coach at the time.
Great.
And just with that shift, though, what I noticed when I got back to my job was that I was so much more confident. I became a more effective leader. So I remained for 4 more years, but there was this freedom in how I operated in the environment. I no longer felt a victim. I no longer felt that I had no control over my future. All kinds of synchronicities happened. My boss had a coach, and He had him work with me. I was able to create a program for the management team where we were able to connect in with our values and beliefs and really start to shift the culture of our division.
Yeah, you basically started coaching.
Yes.
You were really doing something else.
Yeah, exactly. So I had my full-time job, and there was a lot with that. But it was but I never didn't love what I did. I was because my job was around process people technology. I had the opportunity to really connect with people and to encourage people to push and to innovate and to really make sure that we were world class in what it was that we did, which is definitely part of my Leo nature, right? So I was satisfied in that. And then I started to, I was never one who liked to do presentations. I finally agreed to get a speech coach, and found myself giving training to over 300 people, which I would rather have, that was not something that I really ever wanted to do. When I was young, I had a stutter. You can probably notice that I speak quickly, and I'm working on slowing down. But and so I got to play and to really explore a lot of the aspects of myself. And then I did some bold things, like I asked for a sabbatical to go take care of my mother, who was had Alzheimer's and was ailing at home. And what that opened up for me was this, it was a risk, and everyone told me I had no job security when I got back. But when I got back, I had the opportunity to move from the position I was in to another role that really suited me, for that time, and gave me even more flexibility and the ability to really sense into what it is to find that balance between being a woman who is a mother, who is and to also being a woman who has a career. So I experienced that for a couple of years, thanks to, and I have to give credit to a lot of the male managers that I had, who recognized that a woman who works part-time, or a woman who's can often contributes more, and that at that time things were really beginning to shift on Wall Street, especially in our division. We were the kind of leaders of giving opportunities for not just women but men as well, because it's important for the environment that there's fairness. I always believe in equanimity. So we rolled out programs that everybody could take advantage of, piloted them, where they could take time for maternity leave or paternity leave, or take a day off, not from the office. And this was the beginning of, this was kind of a big shift. And so I had planted the seed, I guess, back in 2012, and continued to really water that seed and to work on myself. I did a number of different, I always constantly doing self-development work. I'm a self-development geek. One of the biggest programs one of the programs that made the biggest impact on me was a program I took. It was in Long Island. It was called CEC, and it was a rapid transformation program. And that really, over the course of that program, I really got to recognize that I am the author of my life, and I became empowered with that. I was also able to sort of let go of anything that was holding me back at that time, in stepping into leadership, and also into believing in the possibility that I could have a life beyond where I was working and create this. I was at that point, I was 50 or even more. So yeah. So yeah, I'll pause there again.
So say somebody's out there and they're watching this, and they're thinking, well, I don't know about this path that I'm on. What's their first step? Hire a coach, speak to somebody who's been on that road. What advice would you give somebody who is moving into a transitional phase where they're aware of the fact that what they're doing is not making them happy, and maybe they're not operating in an authentic place, but they feel that because they're earning a certain salary, they don't have enough wiggle room? What would you say is a way to really move that transition forward so they are in a more authentic place? Oh, and you're freezing.
I just got a phone call come through. Sorry about that. I would say the first thing is to give themselves the gift of time, because what I find is that most people will fill up they will be so full of either catering to others' needs or doing what they do. Somebody keeps on calling through. So I would say the first thing is to just start to develop, whether it means getting up 10 minutes, 15 minutes earlier than they normally do, to find some time that is just to listen. That could be somebody going for a run. That could be somebody meditating, like I like to do. Everybody, I think we all know what are the things that we love to do. And in that time, to start to open up to the possibilities. So I believe that what we imagine, what we think, we can create. If you can imagine it, you can create it, right? And so,
well, I believe it.
I know you believe in that, yes. And so I would say, start to give yourself a little bit of time to, first of all, just center back in, to get quiet, and then to start to allow yourself to be open to what your imagination, like ask yourself some questions. What I had a magic wand, what would my life look like right now? You have yours. Yes, I have mine too. So
we're not really not.
And not to limit that, like literally put yourself back to 5 years old. Imagine that you're 5 years old and you can create whatever it is you want to create, and you have your magic wand. What is it? And to start to write those things down. So to start to sort of connect back in, and then slowly, I mean, of course, I believe in coaching as being really effective. I would say hiring a coach is a huge step, because coaching is about taking you forward, right? It's about taking you forward.
You just have to find the right coach.
Yes.
There are a lot of very inauthentic coaching programs out there. You have to, that's something that, but I will tell you, anybody out there, if you want to hire a great coach, Paula is one of them. So she's authentic. So
thank you.
Go on there.
Thank you. Yeah. So I would say, interrupting your life to take some time out. I mean, I could even get as bold as to say, go away for yourself for a weekend. Ask the people in your life that you love very much. I'm in this place where I'm, be honest with, and I think that's really key, is to be honest with the people that you love most. I was really afraid to speak up and ask for what I wanted, because I thought that his needs were more important than mine.
Yeah, right? Of course. So, of course, that's very much how we're conditioned.
Yes.
Very much.
Yeah. So so to begin to take an inventory of the things that you love to do and start to do them. Start to do them with your partner too, like grab him by the hand and go for a walk. Ask him, does he want? And so I think quite often what happened to me through this journey was that Keith and I became ships in the night. He was this way, I was that way, and we lost that connection. And how relationships thrive is if you're creating something together.
Yeah.
Right? That's you and I, right? The reason our relationship is so vibrant and alive is that we are constantly creating things together, whether it's our retreats, whether it's, we're in this state of creation. So if I had to speak to my younger self and about, my relationship with my ex-husband at the time, I would have encouraged her to have lightened up on herself and to actually ask him to do some of the things that I really wanted to do, that I was afraid to ask, or I would ask in such a way that he wouldn't want to do them. Right? It was kind of, you owe me this, but it's not the truth. Nobody owes you anything.
Right.
Make it more fun, laugh more, watch a video, go to a stand-up comedy. There's so many things that
the element of fun, we've so lost it, and it's so important. They talk about connecting to your inner child and just play more. It's really important.
Yeah.
It's so important. So this went so quickly, and so
we could go on forever.
I know we could. And of course you'll be back, because you're one of the regulars that we're going to be having. But I want to ask you a few questions that I know viewers will love. So I think you talked about that person that inspired you, but say her name again, the person that inspired you or
Armenia
inspires
Ibarra.
you now, or is there somebody else that you would say that
I have
somebody could
so
look
many.
up and get their work and see?
I'm gonna stick with Armenia because she came. So Armenia Ibarra is her name. She's a fantastic Cuban woman. You'll find her on LinkedIn, and she's a force to be reckoned with. A phenomenal woman. Yeah, I mean, I'm
An
so blessed to
author,
have
right?
so many women. Say that again.
She's a coach and an author. People
She's
can.
an author. She is an academic. She creates leadership development programs. Yeah,
Okay, we'll
yeah.
put her name in the comments after the show. Don't worry, guys. Um, the best business advice you ever received?
That my career was in my own hands. That nobody else. You don't rely on anybody else to guide your career. It was in my hands.
The best overall advice you ever received?
Hmm. To value the precious moments. I have her up very quickly, but I have a friend who is on the other side. She left us. She was a good friend of mine when she was 29. She died when she was 29 in India, and her her advice to me was to just be present in the moment, to live. No, she used to say, live. You're the author, the director, and the star in your own movie. This ain't no dress rehearsal. That was
Right.
her words. This ain't no dress rehearsal. That was the best advice I ever received.
That I think is a good one. An app that you can't live without.
I'm going to say the subliminal vision board app
Oh, I
that you
know.
shared with me. I'm obsessed. I
It's
cannot stop.
subliminal vision boards, guys. And it'll cost you $5, but it's worth it.
It's the bomb.
It is totally the bomb. A person or account our viewers should follow on social media, and why?
Okay, I'm going to say Harpriya Kaur.
We'll
Dream
put this
High.
in the comments too.
We'll put it in the comments. She's opening up a new studio. It's way beyond in Soho in the fall. Yeah, I'm gonna say that's be a part of that.
Okay. A charity that people may not be aware of that is doing great things.
Okay, so I have so many here. This weekend I was at One Love, which was for Puressa. It's a foundation started by Giselle, which is for to stop sex trafficking. It's I think that the awareness around sex trafficking and what still happens to this day we do not have enough awareness around it. So I'm gonna use that one. Also, a friend of mine is creating a new foundation called Inner Rose. So, and it's to help young women. I love anything that relates to women, right? Children, and the planet. I mean, they're my...
Right. Isn't it Jen? That's Jen Goldman.
Jen Goldman, right? And Abby Kaleo. Yeah. They're co-founding Inner Rose, which is going to be...
Yeah. Well, Jen is going to be a guest on our show.
Yes. Awesome. She can talk about it then. And we'll have Abby on too.
Yeah. She has an amazing story.
Mm-hmm.
She, anybody who battles anxiety and mental illness, I definitely feel she needs to have her story told. So once more, a book that made a difference in your life.
Anam Cara by John O'Donoghue. Specifically the last chapter, which is on death, actually, and it supported me through doulaing my own mom through her passing to the other side, and yeah, I would say that was that had the most profound effect, and supported me in the biggest way.
Great. Okay, Paula, you were wonderful, fantastic. We'll put everything in the comments so viewers can follow up on the person, the book, everything. And just a couple of things before we go. I wanted to add this to every show. So what I'm going to be doing is, and this doesn't have anything to do with what we talked about. It's just something that I thought would be kind of fun for the viewers to take away. Something that I stumbled across that might be interesting to them. There's a product that I love that I found called Berry Breeze. And what it is, you can find it on Amazon. It's got hundreds of reviews and they're all 5-star. I don't know about you, Paula, but I'm a big raspberry and blueberry fan. And I buy the organic raspberries, and before I blink, they have mold on them.
Yes.
This product called Berry Breeze, which is a contraption about this big, that you put in your refrigerator. It takes 2D batteries, I think, or 3D batteries, and it really does work. So it saves you tons of money, because you have to buy these organic berries that cost like $7 at Whole Foods, and so it saves you money because they are great. And then a book that I particularly love, which is not a book, but I'm sure you can relate to this, and that is this planner that I buy from Brendan Burchard. You know, it's really great. I use it every day, and so those are two things from the desk of LDtvTalk that I think could be useful to our viewers.
I love you, Glenn. I love all that you share and all that you bring to us.
Thank you.
Love you. I'm so grateful.
Love you, Paula. Thank you. And thank everybody for being here. Remember, we're going to do the replay tonight at 8. Everything is on LDTV on Facebook, also on LDtvTalk on YouTube. We'll post the video there. You can consider signing up and subscribing to the YouTube channel. We'd love that, of course. It'd be nice if you did. And again, make sure you put comments in the chat, because we're going to have another giveaway of our smudge sticks. I'm going to be sending Carla Epifani-Worthy a smudge stick from last week. Carla and I went to grade school together.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Isn't it wonderful? And she and I connected on Facebook years later. And so anyway, she won one of our smudge sticks. I have to get that off to her. So, you know, giveaways are going to be important too, and tips and everything else. So thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you.
Namaste, Paula.
Namaste, Satnam.
Yes, Satnam. And we did our chant. I did my chant this morning. So, and this is an amazing, you talk about a product I love.
Right.
This is an amazing mala that was put together. Paula, you will love it. It's Mother Mary.
Okay. Oh, I love it.
And Mama Gaia Energy. Allison Sherwood, who lives in Los Angeles, makes these amazing malas.
So beautiful.
And beautiful bracelets. This is one of hers also. And she is also going to be a guest on an upcoming episode. I'm going to have her come on before Christmas. And with enough time, if people want to do personally designed malas, that she'll have time to make them in time for Christmas. I can't believe we're even talking about Christmas.
That's
I think all right, love.
Okay.
Great to have you here. Great to have everybody in the comments. My wonderful sister is saying hello. I love the fact that she comes on.
I do too.
I'm sure she'll have something, a comment to make about my show and the family.
We have to get your mom watching.
My mother, of course. She's such a beautiful inspiration. Coming up on 101.
Holy moly.
Yes. All right, love.
A life well lived. Love you. Talk soon.
Okay, love everybody.
Bye.
Talk soon.
Yes.
Bye.
I don't know how to end this.